Yeah, it was not a safe thing to do.
No. No.
They were doing it. Hello and welcome to the QUACKCAST. This is the Drunkduck QUACKCAST. I'm Ozonation, with me is Tance, Pitt and Baines. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
This week we're talking about working with disability and, how you cope, how you deal with things when stuff isn't working right. How do you adapt and overcome and change your work practice to cope? But before we get into that, we've got to bring up the featured comic. This week the feature was Sophomore by... Kwai's going to tell you all about that now. Tell us about Sophomore, Kwai.
Hello, this is QUACKCAST, and the feature I've selected for this week is The Sophomore by Mr. Penguin, and it is rated M for mature. A cat sits on a folding card table next to an ashtray and a mug of coffee. The cat was enjoying his morning cup of coffee. In this world, a morning confrontation with a cat is an entire conversation. The man in the hat goes deep into the forest looking for answers in order to validate a question the cat asked. How do we know this is real? Deep roots, pools of light. Wise fool, it is time to wake up. The comic is drawn and digitally colored in grayscale and an earth tone color palette. In addition to The Sophomore, Mr. Penguin is half of the creative force behind Potato and Kraut, featured on April 25th, 2018. According to the author's notes, this whole story came to be because of a 20-year-old doodle of a cat and a man in a hat, smoking and drinking coffee in the morning light. Climb down the roots to receive answers and read The Sophomore by Mr. Penguin, rated M.
That was the featured comic, QUACKCAST. Thank you very much for telling us all about Sophomore. And thanks, Tance and Pitt, for explaining what Sophomore is during the time when I was explaining about the comic. All right, so next up, we're going to talk about the featured music. Gun Wallace has given us the theme to Sophomore. This is an interesting pattern here. Gun Wallace is giving us the theme to featured comics. It's pretty cool song. It's sparking into action. The reverent tones of a groovy church organ play us into the roiling conflagration of this dancey little tune, full of heat and glaring orange light. This sound warms you through. So take it away, Gun Wallace, with the theme to Sophomore. Feature Sophomore by who did this Sophomore? Mr. Penguin, rated M. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Penguin. So, now we're talking about working with disability and all the ways you have to cope and adapt when something happens. Or maybe, like, if you're born with a disability, it's not really a disability then, because you are in that you had always had it. So it's not something that removes an ability that you had. It's a normal for you, and other people looking at it as a disability are sort of being a bit dickish in that, because these are your abilities and you do what you do. You're only like you have your abilities, and and you work as you work. But so it's a different thing when it happens to you, like if you have a car accident and you lose an arm or something like that, or like Beethoven went deaf when he was being a composer and couldn't compose in the same way anymore, had to do his music in a different way. I'm not sure, like his ability to read notes and read music sort of saw him through. He could sort of hear the music in his mind from how it was written. So yeah, it's a bit of a different thing. But yeah, how do you cope when your abilities change from what you're used to? So yeah, our experiences in this. Well, I mean, from one perspective, we're all aging, and as you age, you lose functionality in certain things. Some people get severe arthritis. I know my mum has got severe arthritis and finds it a lot harder to do things that she used to do. The movements with her hands and her back and stuff like that cause her not to be able to lift things or have this same fine dexterity anymore, especially like fingers getting like knobblier and all that kind of stuff. And she just can't hold things like she used to be able to do. So that's very, very difficult for her to adapt in many ways, when she does her artistic projects and mosaic and stuff like that. So that's caused her some challenges. From my own perspective, I said it in like the video, like my eyes are going not very good anymore. I used to have really, really great vision. I've been an artist all my life and relied very heavily on my eyes, and now I can't focus on things that are really close, and I can't focus on things that are really far away, and it's like can be maddening, not having and your brain adapts and thinks that it has got perfect focus, but it hasn't, because it's just the brain's kind of adapting to movement and all that kind of stuff. Which means, say, if I'm watching television and the images are moving quite fast, I imagine that it's all in perfect focus, but as soon as like there's subtitles or anything like that, I can't freaking read it because it's just just a weird bloody blur. I can't see what it is. And with my artwork, it means I can't focus really close on things anymore, just at all. I have to have stuff sort of at a certain distance, and color can be very tricky to kind of navigate to. I can't rely on my view of colors to be, for what I'm seeing with colors might not be what other people see with colors, the saturation and stuff like that. So it's tricky to adapt to these things. And I was saying also on their little Patreon video about at various times of my life, my thumbs have been paralyzed because partly due to carpal tunnel, but also like nerves in my neck when they got trapped in like around the spine somewhere here, and it paralyzed my thumbs, and I couldn't hold pens or brushes, and that was such a strange experience. Like things were falling out of my hands, and I forgot, hey, hang on, my thumb doesn't work. What the hell is this? My thumbs aren't. I can't hold things. So I had to wrap like lacky bands around my thumbs to make them work properly, and strings and things, and create a thimble with a little pulley system that attached to my other fingers, so my other fingers would make my thumb work. It was
wow.
It was interesting. It was really painful because it would chafe on the skin because of the constant pulling, but I managed to make it work in the end. But yeah, you adapt to this stuff and you find new normals and new ways of doing it. But that got better because nerves have this wonderful way of, like getting inflammation goes down and nerves can heal to a certain respect. So you can think those things can repair themselves. Thank God. Actually, as an aside, that's also a way that alternative medicine people and quacks and Chinese medicine people can get in, because those things heal, so they can pretend their cures work, whereas they freaking don't. But
I put this magical oil on my wound, and what do you know? After 6 weeks, it healed up.
Exactly. They had this balm, this thing. Oh, jeez. Yeah, don't knock tiger's penis balm and rhinoceros horn. Like, it works. Give it enough time and body natural healing. It works. But yeah, you adapt to these things. And Pete, you were telling us the way your mum has adapted quite, cleverly and uniquely with her art practice.
Yeah. I said it on the video cast, but I'll say it a little bit again because I think it's important for people to hear. So my mom had a pretty big stroke last year, and she's been an artist, well, all my life. And before that as well, she's worked on children's books, and I know, right? Like Face's mom is a children's book artist. I've always loved that irony. But calendars and cards and stuff like that. You could find some of her things. Her name is Karen Hillard Good. She used to work for Lang. But anyway, so she had a really big stroke last year, and it left the left side of her body pretty immobile for the most part. She had to relearn how to talk, how to see. Well, I don't know if she had to relearn how to see, but vision had to come back to her left eye. Her hearing, thankfully, came back to that side for the most part. But her left arm and her left leg are both pretty immobile. And she is right-handed, thankfully, but you don't realize how much you use your non-dominant side until you don't have access to it anymore. So like if, for instance, think about, when you draw, how you put your hand on the other hand on the page to keep it steady or things like that. And just overall, she's not able to paint with the precision that she had before. And on top of it, mentally, her attention span is really shortened now. And her immediate memory is a lot worse. So working on artwork and keeping on something as a project takes a lot. But she has adapted. Her art style, her painting style has become a little bit simpler, but she has found ways to make that simpleness work, to get details out of that. And quite well. I really love the stuff that she's doing now. And it's therapeutic in a sense too, because she's always been an artist, and art is that thing that's there that can help her keep going. And then the other thing that's helped her as well is, like I was saying on the video, she has a good support network. She has lots of artist friends that she keeps in touch with that help keep her motivated. So it's been difficult, but like you were saying, you do your best to find ways to adapt. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you adapt within the abilities that you have, and you change your art practice to what will work with what you've got.
Yeah.
So you can't necessarily go back to working exactly the way you did before. Maybe you can retrain yourself to do that. But in the meantime, try some new things that work with what you have.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think, Tance, you were saying that you did that in that because your eyesight, you've always had issues with your eyesight, and when that was getting worse, you adapted by going fully digital.
Yeah, that's right. I basically got a severe decline in my like short distance vision, in a sense, not in a sense actually, and literally, like, if I now take off my glasses, I cannot see letters. I see white lines where there are letters, and I cannot see your faces either. So this is how blurred I see things. It's like you have ×3 applied Gaussian blur. That's how
Mhm.
I see it.
That's hard.
So, and I remember that I got this decline really rapidly, and the only way for me to be able to see would be to really blow up all the line work so that I would be able to sort of compromise my weaker glasses with my more severe issue, by just making it, or everything was really, really big, so I could focus on the big stuff. Like it would be neural level size for me to be able to comfortably do my inking and everything. But that really tired me. Like, I got constant headaches, um, the eyes watered, felt really dry, burning sensations. Like, it was a hassle. It was really, really nasty. And I remember one thing that I sort of developed without being conscious about it is speed sketching. Do it as fast as possible.
Hmm.
So yeah, I basically can sketch really quickly. If
Oh, that's interesting.
that doesn't mean I sketch correctly. I just sketch really quickly, and I can camouflage the line art. Um, when I cannot see it very well, I can sort of choose an angle or choose a panel layout in a sense that allows me to not invest on many details that I wouldn't be able to see and I wouldn't be able to basically to draw. Painting was much easier for that reason because I paint a little bit like a mix of oils and watercolor in a digital way, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So I don't need to be super focused on that. I can see the hues well enough and just do the painting. So that, yeah, that. Now with my glasses, I don't need to speed through things. Except last week, I did something stupid. I'm trained to lift heavy stuff because of the whole first responder thing, Red Cross and stuff. I have lifted whole grown men
Yeah.
with no problem. And then I lifted this like 10-kilo basket of wet laundry and pulled something on my back. Yes. Which is really embarrassing. But for easily 3-4 days, I wasn't able to sit right in the chair. It really hurt. It is compoundingly hurt in a sense. Like, I could sit for a while, but after a couple of hours, it was very annoying. So I reverted back to that speed drawing.
Okay. Well, that's a very
And
interesting way to adapt.
so my current page in Patreon is the one I made while I had this back issue. And I think that if you know what to look for, You can see where I cut corners in the details so that I could speed draw through it in a sense. So,
I'll have to look for that now.
Be gentle, okay?
Well, I certainly didn't strike me when I saw that page as there being anything different, though. It didn't look like a lowering in quality.
Oh, thank you. That makes me feel better.
You have the skills to adapt when you work quickly. Well, that's an interesting point. Yeah, you can have injuries and stuff like that can be temporary, and they can force you to adapt in different ways too. So yeah, I mean, I remember spraining my wrist, like breaking my arm and that kind of stuff, and you have to do different things because then your arm's rigid. You can still move your fingers. Well, I could, but you can't really move your arm around too much. You have to move the drawing board instead, which is a different thing. So yeah, in those kind of instances. And I remember many years ago, I was bedridden with a really severe flu. Like, this took me weeks to get over. Weeks and weeks. It was the proper flu, when people say, I've got the flu, and they haven't, they've just got a head cold. Whereas when you have influenza, it's a different thing. And I was stuck. I couldn't get out of bed for a long time, just like if I got out of bed, I would be exhausted and I'd have to get back, and the headaches would be so severe. I would be in bed like 23 hours a day pretty much. So I adapted to that when I was doing my comic by setting up my computer like totally in my bed and having my computer screen above my bed and everything, and having my tablet, and so I could still work on it while I was lying, recovering from that. So yeah, that was an interesting experience when you're stuck in bed, unable to do anything. So what about you, Baines? With your
if I had the flu, I wouldn't be doing any drawing. I would just lay there and moan. That would be all.
Oh.
Yes. So that's incredible motivation. Yeah, man, I've been lucky so far. I do find definitely as the years go on, like things will suddenly seize up. I've never been a full-time artist, or really like sort of, for a stretch of time early on, I was putting in lots of hours on doing pages like every day when I was first starting my comic. But yeah, I find I'll have like something will seize up, my hand will seize up, or my hip will be like suddenly like really painful. I'll be like, oh! Stop drawing, have to get up, put down the pen. Yeah, but like nothing, and I also have to enlarge things on the computer screen a little bit, although my eyes seem to kind of come and go in strength. I just kind of leave it. If I can't see, I just leave it. I keep driving, and I just hope I don't hit anyone, and then suddenly the eyes get better. But this is. It's amazing that like the people overcome stuff, like especially in the case of Pitt's mom and stuff like that, to sort of rebuild everything and do it in a different way. Like that's amazing.
Yeah,
but I guess I've been lucky. Yeah.
The
I
drive.
think of Hendrix, who had or Stevie Wonder, who's blind, or Ray Charles, who's blind. Jimi Hendrix, born with no hands. I think.
I thought you were going to say like Jimi Hendrix because he's dead. I'm like, yeah, that is pretty debilitating.
Slows him down, but he's still doing it.
Still raking in the money. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are a lot of kind of challenges where you have to adapt and change to cope. What about the people you've worked with? Like, because we've talked about like the physical stuff. But Pitt sort of mentioned that her mum's like her attention span's not so great now. But you've dealt with like some very autistic people. how have they, like, have you met any of them who've that sort of like been degenerative or has come along, or like gotten worse or whatever, and they've still had to like to manage and create or do other things and work around that, or
If the question is so good that I wish I had a good answer, but I don't. I'm sorry. No, I haven't worked with anyone who has like a degenerative disorder or who does art or does that kind of work and has to deal with it. The little bit I've done, the art that they do, like my clients have been like, when they're motivated, they're super motivated because of the nature of their disorders and stuff like that.
right.
One
Well, that's
particular,
interesting in itself.
if he's interested, then he's very interested, and you have reams and miles of work, like either like collages or artwork that's been done. And, so it's awesome, but like physically disabled, I haven't really worked on that level with people like that.
That's interesting in itself, because autism can involve things like an ADHD can involve stuff like hyperfocus, where people are just sort of tied into what they're doing and will start, like you said, producing reams and reams of artwork, or just not being able to pull themselves away, and they could be stuck working on this thing for hours and hours.
Yeah,
and forgetting to eat and all that, and they channel it into into creativity. I know, like my ex was she had ADHD, and she used that to her benefit when she had to do a lot of study, which she would try and use the hyperfocus as a study aid. So she would set up things so she would just be studying and focusing on her work and not doing anything else for hours and hours and hours. So that's an interesting way of adapting to a situation.
Yeah, I've known people who've had a little bit of, I don't know exactly what the condition is, but a friend of mine back in the day who like we did music, and like I've had multiple friends like this who just like into the wee hours of the night they'd be working on something, like learning a song or practicing.
Yeah.
I'd be staying over or whatever, and I'd just be like, dude, can I just like watch a movie and go to sleep? I just a tiny bit of that sometimes, but I do sometimes, and I can relate to a little bit. You get excited, you get momentum, and you don't care about eating or drinking or anything else but doing it, and it can be really nice in small doses. But I've never had that in my nature usually. So I was like, oh man, are we done yet? Yes, it's impressive, but
yeah, that can be like a yeah, that can be a thing. I mean, I have a bit of that too, especially when I was younger. Like you don't eat, you don't go to the toilet, don't do anything.
Yeah.
6 hours later, you go, oh Jesus, why do I feel like shit?
oh man, I had it with gambling, but that's not as useful.
Oh dear.
You definitely have a bit of that. I've had multiple friends who are like you, and you're like the level that you work at and how hard you work at stuff. You're definitely, yeah, you're one of those as well. So I admire it.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of autism in all of us.
I wonder if it's a touch of that or.
Yeah, it's possible. It sort of brings to mind though, this working with like more like mental stuff. Like I get severe migraines. I haven't gotten them as bad recently as I used to, but they used to be like they would kill me for a whole weekend. Often every weekend I would get them, and they would like go for 3 or 4 days, and it would just steal my weekend. So I'd be in bed for most of the weekend with a migraine, not able to do anything, and all that time off from work, and I couldn't draw or couldn't create, so it was wasted time. when I took the headache pills, I would know, yep, I've got like a window of 3 hours to create. So I've got to work within this 3 hours, because then I'll be buggered. Because what would happen was, like this incredible apathy would set in. So with that, it would be impossible to create or do anything. And then, like sleepiness and all of this stuff as well. And that was with the pills. So the pain would be killed, but because of the apathy and the sleepiness and, that kind of stuff, I couldn't create when I had that either. So I just had this window, this golden time when the headache was killed, the migraine was killed, and I was like really fine and sort of feeling like a bit of euphoria, but I knew it was all going to crash. So I could try and race through and do as much as possible in that window. But yeah, wow. that's a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I adapted to doing the Tance thing by trying to do stuff as fast as possible while I still could.
Yeah.
So yeah, what about, have you guys ever like had injuries or anything like that where you've had to compensate?
At one point in recent years, I had some kind of shoulder injury. It was very painful, and it's pretty much back to normal now. But I was doing physical therapy for it, and it was in my non-dominant hand. But doing digital art, you're kind of moving stuff around and using the mouse and stuff, and also just the pain. That was it made everything harder to do. Especially, I was getting into 3D art, so I was using the mouse a lot and stuff. So I was actually trying to use my right hand. That was tough. It's like when you really want to do it, but it's like it hurts. So it's the only time.
That's interesting. So you had to fight against the pain in order to keep doing that stuff.
Yeah, or just accept the fact that I couldn't do it, which sucks. It's like when you can't do it, you really want to do it, kind of thing.
That can feel like giving up in a lot of ways, can't it? Which can be even more painful.
Yeah, you get used to it.
Or change to do something else. That can happen. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I can't draw. Can't use the mouse.
But you're like, it's whiskey. It's not going to drink itself.
It's not going to drink itself.
And sometimes having that downtime can also be ample time to kind of gather ideas.
For sure.
So if you absolutely can't draw, which sucks, but it does happen, and you're looking for a way to still at least feel a little bit productive, watch some cool movies or look at some art or something that might inspire you, and give you some ideas of what you can do once you feel a little bit better.
For sure.
And it could also just be a way of caring for yourself as well. There are so many people that go and draw and draw and draw and make themselves draw until they have burnout. And sometimes when something happens, especially as a consequence of that, you get arthritis or something, it can be your body's way of making you slow down a little bit and take some time off. And hopefully you can come back and find a healthier way to go about it. But yeah, just be kind to yourself.
Yeah. There's definitely a thing of like letting your brain, even if like whether you're consciously thinking about stuff, whether writing or drawing, or you're just letting yourself rest and recover, letting your body and brain rest and recover. That's kind of part of the creative process, right?
Yeah.
Very much so. It reminded me of, one of those times I'd forgotten about, when I was, the whole migraine thing and the apathy when I knew I couldn't create was, and then I decided that, I'd watch things instead. And initially I thought, I'm just wasting time. This is just like non-creative time. And then I thought, well, I could just regard this time as research. And these things that I'm looking at are stuff that I can use for other ideas. So I can use what I'm looking at as a learning process. So these are basically, this is study. So that can be good. What you're watching isn't just entertainment; it's stuff that you can use to develop ideas from. Yeah, it's a good point you made, Pet. Thumbs up for Tards. Oh, Baines, this is for you, buddy.
Oh, thanks, sir.
Put those fingers away. You don't know where they've been.
Baines has been finger gunned.
Finger bang, bang, bang.
That's South Park.
Yeah, that's what it was. I think so.
That's their 90s boy band era.
Yeah, right. Oh, I had forgotten what exactly it was. Yeah, that was it though.
Put my learning, my study, my references to good effect there. So yes, a disability. I think our disability is we sort of run out of stuff here. Well, let's be positive. Okay, so we could change the subject to talk about other stuff if you like. Like we've talked about the idea of...
We could talk a little bit about prevention. I mean, carpal tunnel, overwork, getting more severe arthritis. I mean, beyond the quote-unquote natural progression stuff. If you burn your body pushing yourself to do stuff, you are going to end up needing to adapt sooner rather than later, in a sense. What Pitface said about taking some time off, it would be perhaps helpful to just do it as part of your regime. Give yourself time to bounce a little bit, to rest, to just relax, to have some downtime from art if you can do it. Especially since for most of us, this is not our day job. And there are a lot of things on top of what we do for our art that we have to deal with. And sorry, excuse the bus that just passed. So you need to consider that sometimes you might already be too tired to make anything, or too on edge physically to do anything, or you might want to prevent the migraine by taking rests or whatever, so that you can have then your quality time with art over the weekend, for example, or stuff like that. You know your body best, or at least you should, and preventing certain things by being kind to yourself, I think, is an important part of being an artist that we are not taught. We are taught like, oh, you should be the starving artist that works around the clock, and generally is like this almost catatonically always producing art, or you're not, or you are a poser or something like that. So
yeah. As webcomic creators, I mean, we generally do jobs that are done by several people in industry comics, so just keep that in mind. But art itself can also be therapy, so.
Yeah, it can be. It can, especially for taking your mind off things that are pretty bad, that can be very beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that thing that Tuts was mentioning? Yeah, the taking the breaks. God, I had a point to make about something and I forgot what it was. Well, our time's almost over too, so we should wrap things up now. Damn it, what were you I'm trying to work back. Shit, it's gone. It's zapped out of my head. I hate that when that happens. Things disappear from your damn brain.
People will get the answer
remember.
next week. Next time. Find out what was I was thinking. Yeah.
Same bat time, same bat channel. Yeah. Well, yeah, be kind to yourself and take breaks because, yeah, like Kant said, you know your body and, well, at least you should, and things should, be properly rested. I know with me, compensation. Right, okay, so years ago when I first got my carpal tunnel and I first got paralyzed in the thumb, I thought it was carpal tunnel at the time, but it was this nerve in the neck. One of my main ways of coping with that was to switch all mouse movements forever to the left hand because I'm a right-hander. And so forever on, like for years, I don't know, like 20 years or something, I've been using my mouse with my left hand and I'm pretty good at it. You know, like in first-person shooters, I can fly helicopters, shoot guns and stuff with my left hand, just expertly, you know, and that's a way of like preventing any issues and also, you know, coping if my right hand can't do the job. My left hand will be able to do stuff, and it's very dexterous, and it improved the dexterity of my left hand amazingly. So it's a good thing to do because, you know, using the mouse isn't that much of an advanced job, so it's a good kind of training aid, starter aid to developing the dexterity, or should be the synesterity, in your left hand. Synesterity.
Wow, that's a good word.
I don't know if it's a real word, but dexterity is, and dexter means right, so, and sinister means left, so it should be a real word. So yeah, anyway, coping with disability. None of us have suffered any real severe disability, but, you know, like problems with eyesight and stuff like that aren't something to be sneezed at. We really do rely on our eyes, so nothing should be trivialized either. Well, thank you very much for listening to QUACKCAST number 586. I've been Ozone Ocean, and you guys have been Baines, Tance, and Pitt. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, right on the time when Google kicks us off.